You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Today, the House of Representatives passed the bill to release the Epstein files. Praise God for that. After all of these months, years, really, for many people, but at least for those who watch this show, for me, it's been something we've been pushing for several months now, trying to get the full Epstein files released. Now, I want to put out some information, or at least set some expectations here, because I see a lot of people talking about justice, bringing people to justice. That's just, I'll just tell you up front, it's not going to happen. We're not going to see the type of justice that I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, expect. Are there going to be names in there? Sure. Are there going to be investigations? Absolutely. Is anybody going to be held accountable? I don't think so. I really don't. Call me cynical, call me jaded. I've seen these things never pan out. It's never what a lot of people expect. So yeah, it's the best that's going to happen is that people are going to be exposed and potentially ridiculed. At least that's the extent of quote-unquote justice. But that's never been my main reasoning behind wanting the Epstein files to be released. I want to know as much of the scope and scale of the conspiracy itself underlying it. You can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I would say at 93%, maybe 94% certain that Jeffrey Epstein was not acting on his own, that he was acting on behalf of the deep states, plural. I think that he was working with and or for the CIA. I think that he was working with or for Mossad. I think that he was working with or for GCHQ. I think the evidence, circumstantial, but still, all points in that direction, as well as does logic. There's a lot of people out there who are familiar with the situation, including Ghislaine Maxwell, including Alan Dershowitz, his former attorney. A lot of people are saying there was no list. He didn't have a list. And I believe them. I don't think that he had a quote-unquote list. I think that what he was supposed to do was to be a social butterfly, to attract powerful men, to find perverts, to find the guys that he could get on tape, and then those tapes were then sent to his puppet masters. I believe that the quote-unquote lists that everybody's talking about, those lists are going to be in the hands of the various deep state bad guys out there. They're the ones that are using this. They're the ones that are blackmailing. They're the ones that are exposing. And I would argue, people always say, "Oh, it was the Clintons, or it was the royal family, or who killed Jeffrey Epstein." Guys, it was the deep state. Again, I would put that at over 80% sure that it was a CIA or some sort of intelligence organization or maybe a group of intelligence agencies that said, "Hey, we can't let him make a deal. We can't let him expose." Not because they were concerned about themselves, because they're never concerned about themselves. They have so much cover that they really don't care what we know, because they'll just pretend like it doesn't exist. No, they want the blackmail to still be relevant. It takes away their tool of blackmailing powerful people if those people are exposed anyway. What they want is the threat of exposure. That's the blackmail material. The threat of, hey, we've got these videos of you, we've got this evidence that you are a pedophile freak, you're an evil man, and so we're going to use it against you unless you do exactly what we want you to do. That's how they control things. Epstein was I think one of many. To be clear, I think there's many Epsteins out there that are just more careful and less whatever you want to call it, less public than Epstein was. I think he was, an intelligent man, but I think he was too cocky, and as a result, he got himself busted multiple times. And that's why people ask, why was Trump? What is Trump hiding? Is he hiding his friends, his donors, his buddies? Was he there? Did he do stuff wrong? Blah, blah, blah. No, I think based upon what we've seen from the reactions, because don't forget, both Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Donald Trump, all were saying, release the files. And then all of a sudden something changed. And I would argue that what changed was that after digging into it, they realized, holy crap, this is going to take down the Central Intelligence Agency. This could take down the intelligence apparatus completely. This could take down Mossad. This could take down GCHQ, possibly others. And they said, what would happen? What are the repercussions from this? And they realized that those repercussions would be bad. I disagree with them. I'm not trying to rationalize their decision, but please don't look at this as, oh, they were just protecting their cronies. He has gone against his own base in many ways. He has ridiculed multiple times in the recent past, ridiculed MAGA itself. Now, don't tell me that he was doing that just to protect some donors. No, he values us, and for him to be willing to in many ways distance himself from us, to go after people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, to try everything that they could to prevent this from happening, I think that it was deeper. I think this is something that they believe will do major harm to the United States of America. Now, to be clear, if it does, so be it. I am all in favor, and easy for me to say this because I'm not in government, I'm not in the administration, but I'm all in favor of exposing whatever evils there are, even if it means doing damage to the Trump administration. I know that sounds awful to some of you, but the truth is the truth. And I don't want the CIA or Mossad or GCHQ or anybody else having assets that they can use to control things. There's something called sovereignty, something called natural rights. And what the deep state does with whatever they have from Epstein, it's not natural, it's not sovereign. It is, you could argue, oh, but it's for the American interest. No, we don't. That's not who we are. It's not part of our DNA. At least it shouldn't be. And if it is, it needs to be purged. So I will get on my high horse and be all principled. I'm just saying that for President Trump, for the administration, and for those people involved, not so much Pam Bondi, but for Kash Patel, for Dan Bongino, to exchange their, integrity in a way, to exchange their integrity for the sake of what they believe or what they were convinced is in the best interest of the United States, must be something big. We'll see. And I say we'll see. We probably won't see, but we might. This is a big deal. I don't want to downplay it. According to an article we posted over at Patriot.tv, House passes bill to release Epstein files with only one no vote. Ooh, who was the no vote? Who was the no vote? Well, that's the hook to keep you in here, but only for another few seconds because I'll get to it. The House of Representatives took decisive action Tuesday, passing a bill by a staggering 427-1 margin to compel the Justice Department to hand over all files tied to Jeffrey Epstein's criminal activities. This move comes after prolonged delays and internal debates, signaling a rare moment of unity in Washington on an issue that has lingered in the shadows for years. Epstein, the disgraced financier, I hate calling him that, he's a pedophile, convicted of sex trafficking minors, died under suspicious circumstances. We all know about that. His web of connections reached into the highest echelons of power, including former presidents, business tycoons, and global elites, fueling endless speculation about who might be shielded by government secrecy. Leading the charge was Representative Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, a Republican and a Democrat, a Libertarian, technically, and a Democrat, who championed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Massie issued a stern warning to the Senate, basically saying, don't mess around. Don't stop this. The vote wasn't without resistance. Louisiana Republican Representative Clay Higgins cast the sole dissenting vote, explaining on X that, quote, as written, the bill reveals and injures thousands of innocent people, witnesses, people who provided alibis, family members, etc. If enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt, not by my vote. And look, I admire his stance. I disagree, but I admire his stance and his willingness to be the one dissenting vote. So it is what it is. Higgins pointed to the House Oversight Committee's ongoing probe, which has already made public over 60,000 pages of Epstein-related documents, as a more measured approach. Again, I disagree, but I do appreciate what he's saying. Even Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, another Louisiana Republican, voiced reservations right up to the end. He told reporters who's going to want to come forward if they think Congress can take a political exercise and reveal their identities, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. I disagree there as well. Johnson also raised alarms about potentially exposing undercover law enforcement officers. Perhaps. And I hope that whatever damage may be done as a result is mitigated or reversed or prevented. Okay? Because he's right. If this is what we think it is, and we are talking about, legitimate. I know they hide behind that all. Oh, for the sake of national security, we can't reveal. Well, that's a cop-out 99 times out of 100. This is potentially, I don't know for sure, this is potentially one of those 1 out of 100 times where it legitimately could have an impact on law enforcement, on undercovers. So something I hope that I hope that's mitigated. Despite these worries, he joined nearly all Republicans in supporting the bill, bolstered by President Donald Trump's recent endorsement after months of opposition. And to be clear, look, I support President Trump, but this is one of those situations where he just doesn't want to be on the losing side. That's why he endorsed it. This wasn't a matter of, he's doing the right thing. No, he does not want these released. He has never wanted them released, not ever since the reversal back when he and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino found out what the blowback, or what they perceived the blowback would be, and they decided against releasing it. We saw that. We witnessed it. I opposed that stance. I still do. But this reversal is just a matter of nothing you can do. It's going to be veto-proof majority. Got to do it. Just might as well accept it. I even said the other day, I said, look, he should just release it before the vote. That would have been their smart move, in my humble opinion. Just release it. It's great. You guys want it released? Fine. We'll release it. We don't have to go through all these legislative shenanigans. We'll just go ahead and release everything. That's what they should have done, in my humble opinion. Trump's shift in stance drew scrutiny, yada, 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 yada. You guys know the details. Goes to the Senate. Hopefully they won't do too much to it to try to upend it. I don't think they will. I think that this vote, with only the one dissenting vote, demonstrates a consensus, not just in the House of Representatives, but among the American people. Democrats, Republicans, amongst the American people, we all want it released. We want to see what, who are the bad guys. And again, my motivation is not necessarily to see those people exposed, though that's great. Good stuff. I'm glad. We want them exposed. But the primary thing here, I want to find out how deep the deep state got into this. I want to see if this is something that's ongoing with other people. And I would say it almost certainly is. And I would hope that we can use this to defang the deep states, to take away one of their many, 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 many tools that they use to control nations, to control businesses, to control people. They are an anti-sovereignty set of people. I believe that they are either the minions of the globalist elite cabal or in the upper echelons of the globalist elite cabal. And anything that we can do to take away some of their power, I think it's a worthy cause. So the good news is a leftist dark money group has shut down. The bad news is it's just being basically absorbed into a bigger leftist dark money group, being reorganized, and is probably going to be stronger than it ever was. And this is a group that we've actually had a run-in with before, way back in 2022, 2023-ish, around that time. They came after me. And so I'm glad they're gone, but they're not really gone. And who used to fund them? It was this guy, Bill Gates. Bill Gates was their primary funder, but with the election of President Trump, a lot of those dark money groups, a lot of the money flowing into them was cut off, including by Bill Gates himself. And so that is why they're in the predicament that they're in. This particular group is called Arabella Advisors. You may have heard them. They're not big news, but they're big enough to be on some people's radar, according to Daily Caller News Foundation. A new public benefit corporation acquired left-wing dark money group Arabella Advisors' financial sponsorship arm, with the group itself ceasing operations. The organization announced Monday. Of course, like I said, they're not really ceasing operations. They're just moving to a different flag. The corporation, Sunflower Services, is taking over the pro-Democrat funding apparatus with financial support from left-leaning groups, New Venture Fund, Windward Fund, who I believe Glenn Beck has talked about, and Hopewell Fund, who I've also had a run-in with them in the past. All this according to a press release. The move amounts to a major restructuring for Arabella Advisors after billionaire Bill Gates cut off grants to the group. The giant group, I guess. The philanthropy giant's work will continue seamlessly under the new framework, Sunflower Services CEO Alan Williams said. He also said, our operation is built to last and one that is grounded in our shared values and long-term vision. What does that vision entail? It's all about censorship. So there's these different organizations, dark money groups, charitable funds, charitable wings, charitable arms, whatever. They get a lot of protections from the IRS as long as they're not involved in electioneering, as long as they're not contributing to candidates. But they're able to get around a whole bunch of that stuff by doing basically the bidding of Democrats, the bidding of leftist groups. This is their modus operandi, and that's why they came after me and a whole bunch of others way back when. The idea there was they can't say, vote for Joe Biden or vote for Kamala Harris, right? But they can go after, like, my various publications and other conservative America First Patriots shows or news outlets or blogs or whatever. They can go after them and thereby basically assisting the Joe Bidens and Kamala Harrises and Zohran Mamdanis of the world. That's legal. It's ugly. Okay, it's very ugly because, again, they claim to be going after misinformation, but 100% of their targets are going to be conservatives or anyone who would vote Republican. So to say that they're nonpartisan in any way is ridiculous. It's ludicrous, and that's why, in my humble opinion, the IRS it shouldn't exist. That's beside the point. If they do exist, then they should be focusing their efforts on cutting off these dark money groups from their tax-exempt status. I'm not saying shut them down. That's up to people like you and me. But as far as not giving them benefits for doing what they do, because they are, again, they're bypassing the law. They're not breaking the law. They've got a lot more lawyers than I'll ever have. And those lawyers show them how to make sure that they can maintain their benefits, their status, without and still be able to benefit their various leftist causes. Back to the article. Arabella Advisors managed a network of organizations' finances to support left-leaning causes as well as groups focused on registering voters. That, now again, you might be like, well, but they're registering Democrats. Well, that's true. But because they're not specifying whether they're going to register Democrats or Republicans, that's how they're able to get away with it. They go to places where they know that the vast majority of people that they could possibly register are going to be Democrats. It's not about, saying Democrats only. It's about going to places where there's only Democrats. And again, this keeps it legal. The Arabella Network also heavily bankrolled left-leaning activist organizations designed to look like grassroots movements. I want to be clear. There's a lot of left-leaning groups out there, dark money groups, charities, or whatever. But what made Arabella so dangerous is that they really tried to disguise what they were doing in a way to make it more effective. They're very good. I don't want to give them kudos, but their style, when I looked into them heavily again in 2022 and 23, their strategies were spot on. They're very good, and there really is no counter to them on the right. Two groups in the Arabella Network are tied to a PAC leading efforts to unseat Republican Tennessee Rep. Mark Green in a December 2nd special election. Arabella Advisors previously funded research targeting online conservative leaning speech as quote-unquote misinformation and suggesting censorship as a solution before such projects fell out of favor under the Trump administration. People like Bill Gates stopped sending money thinking that it was futile or that they could even get in trouble if they were to do it. Sunflower Services will now provide services to new venture fund, Hopewell Fund, Windward Fund, and several other nonprofit projects and organizations. This, according to the the Hopewell Fund president, Anna Brower. She said, "We're investing in Sunflower because we believe that when social justice organizations have world-class infrastructure, they can focus their energy where it belongs, or building power and creating change." And this points to what I've said probably at least half a dozen times. It's not been a major topic of mine. But when it comes to strategies, one thing that we as America First Patriots often do is we find something that works and we stick with it, and oftentimes we stick with it too long. Democrats are very good at reinventing whatever it is they need to reinvent at any particular moment. We're seeing it. When was the last time you heard anybody talking about ESG? You think ESG is gone? You think, oh my gosh, we finally defeated ESG, because back in 2023, you've got BlackRock saying that they don't want to talk about ESG anymore. They didn't change, they didn't replace, or I'm sorry, they didn't eliminate it. They just changed it. And we're already seeing a very big change when it comes to the whole climate cult happening before our eyes. You're seeing it sort of fall out of favor. Does that mean it's going away? It's gone? It's disappearing? No. They're just regrouping. This is something that, again, the left is able to do far better than the right. We try something, and then once it breaks, we stop. Okay? Look at the Tea Party. Where's the Tea Party? Tea Party was huge a decade ago. Now they're gone. Just disappeared. Out. What happened? Was big government defeated? Were taxes lowered? Did they win? No. They just sort of faded away. And then they never came back. They didn't reinvent themselves. You could say, to some extent, that TPUSA was a changing variation of it. But I think that TPUSA would have existed with or without the Tea Party. The left, on the other hand, they will try something for as long as they need to, and then when it starts losing favor, they just pull it back and then rebrand it. They're going to do this. You're going to see this with misinformation and disinformation. They haven't stopped attacking it. This is a strategic retreat. This isn't a complete withdrawal of troops. They're going to come after us. They're going to try to censor us. They're going to continue to do those things that they allegedly have stopped doing. And we fall for it every time. We think, oh, okay, well, I guess we won. Mission accomplished. Let's go grab us some Miller Lite. No, that's not what we should do. We should learn from what they're doing. Arabella Advisors, they had a big donor in Bill Gates, and when he was gone, they're like, okay, well, I guess we need to restructure and regroup and rebuild. And that's what they do. If we are, as a nation, going to continue down this road, if we're going to be able to basically sustain ourselves in the long term, the only way we can do that is to sort of get into the easiest way to call it is scavenger mode, right? I mean, we need, when things start breaking, we don't just dump it off on the side of the road and try to build something brand new. We take the parts that were working, that are still working, and we recycle them. Instead, we just tend to go until the car's dead, and then we leave it and go buy a new car, or walk, or take the bus. And that approach puts us behind. Makes it to where we cannot keep up with the far more nimble leftist side of the aisle. One way to stay nimble is to stay healthy. And the best way to stay healthy is to, well, get enough sleep, eat the right foods, exercise. But the second best way to stay healthy is with meds. Now, I know, it's funny that I work with Jace Medical. They know that I'm not a big fan of medications, but I'm also realistic in my understanding that there are many people out there, millions, tens of millions of Americans out there who do need long-term storage meds such as antibiotics, or even chronic meds for heart disease or for diabetes or whatever it is that may ail you, things that you can't handle just naturally with diet and good sunlight and proper sleep and exercise. For those of you out there who do need medications, know this, that at some point, not only is it going to get more expensive, it might not be available. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here. I'm just telling you the truth. Reality is that the pharmaceutical supply chain is under threat, has been for a long time. If, with 90% of the ingredients that go into our pharmaceuticals coming from communist China, what's going to happen if they invade Taiwan? What's going to happen if Xi has a falling out with President Trump? We don't know what that'll look like. And besides, why would we want to be dependent upon China in the long term anyway? Take care of yourself, take care of your family. Make sure that you have long-term storage meds that you can take, keep as a backup, or heck, use them as regular. You can go to patriot.tv/meds. That's patriot.tv/meds. Talk to my good friends over at Jace Medical, and they will take care of you. They'll get you all squared away. If you've watched my show in the past, you're probably very well aware of my perspectives on the national debt. Those perspectives are pretty much doom and gloom, but also with the caveat that, you know what, if we're either forced, which is probably what's going to have to happen, or if somebody ever comes along and replaces pretty much everybody in D.C. and puts in people that understand austerity and the crisis, the true crisis that we're in, then that's the only way that we can actually make it out of this. It is crushing. It is going to crush us as a nation. We will cease to exist as a result of the debt crisis if given enough time, and that amount of time is not in terms of decades, it is in the term of years. Some would argue months, but a lot of those same people that would argue months have been saying it's going to be months for years. So I'll stick with the years concept, but still, it could happen really any time. I mean, one massive major event, a paradigm shift in the global economy would destroy us. And no, I'm not a global economist. What I'm saying is that because our national debt is so high, because the interest alone is crushing us so badly, if it wasn't for the fact that we are the world reserve currency, or we have the world reserve currency, we would already have been crushed. We can't. This is unsustainable. The only thing that's propped us up is the fact that currently, if we go down, pretty much the rest of the world will as well. But they are in the process of de-dollarization. So many things are changing in the world that, yeah, I think that it could be months, but we're realistically talking about years. Either way, the debt crisis is horrible. If you've watched my show in the past, you're probably very well aware of my perspectives on Elon Musk, but just in case, here they are. Do I like some of the things he's done? Yeah, of course, absolutely. He's done some pretty cool things, not just in the world of technology, but also through Doge, and some of his ideas are acceptable, we'll say. I'm not a big fanboy of Elon Musk, and I do think there's a very, very, very good chance that he is a globalist shill in disguise, that he might fight against this, that, or the other, but then he ends up not fighting against it, embracing it, profiting from it. And I'm not against profit. I'm not one of those guys, he's too rich, he shouldn't be that rich. I don't care about his riches. I care about his motivations. And either based upon just too much reliance on technocracy, which is what he's really pushing for, or just because he's actually trying to destroy the world as a shill for the globalist elite cabal. Either way doesn't matter, and he wouldn't be acting any differently. Okay, you do a little bit of good, you do some distracting, and then you pull the rug out from underneath us, and then we die. That's the path that Elon Musk seems to be on, and he's taking a whole lot of people with him down that dangerous path. And the latest example of this combines these two concepts: the concept of the crushing debt crisis, what Elon Musk wants to do about it, and of course his solution. Wait for it. His solution, of course, is robots and AI. That's what he thinks will make things better, or at least that's what he's saying will make things better. In reality, that will bring us into a dystopian future of complete dependency and pretty much the end of the human race as we know it. That's not hyperbole. It might sound like it if you're a non-believer in the concepts that we've talked about in the past, but if you've been paying any attention at all, you realize that dependency. I'm not talking about, I'm not terrified of the flying robot dogs with the machine guns that are going to kill us, a la Skynet. No, my biggest fear when it comes to artificial intelligence is not that it's going to go rogue, it's that it's going to work. It's going to work just fine. And Americans and people in Western society in particular, but pretty much globally, will become dependent on automation, dependent upon robots. Think along the lines of the space cruise ship in Wall-E will be incapable of being able to take care of ourselves. I'm not talking, when I say we, I'm talking we as a society. I'm not going to buy it. You're not going to fall for it. We're all going to be okay, but we're going to be a minor, tiny, itty-bitty minority, less than 1% of Americans that's in the very near future will be capable, have the resources and the skills and the motivation and the perseverance to be able to weather that particular storm if it comes to pass. I'm not trying to say, it's inevitable. I'm just saying that that's the path that the globalist elite cabal wants us to go down. It's the path that Elon Musk wants us to go down. And I talked about this over at Patriot.tv, article titled Globalist Hegelian Dialectic. Elon Musk says only, quote unquote, solutions to debt crisis are AI and robots, because of course he does. He is a man of ideas. Some are undeniably brilliant. Others carry the faint scent of something deeper, something aligned with the technocratic vision of a future where machines, not human beings, determine the direction of civilization. His latest claim, that the spiraling American and global debt crisis can only be solved through artificial intelligence and robotics, falls into that latter category. Musk argues that the national debt is now so large and growing so quickly that traditional tools cannot fix it. And he might be right. He might be right, but you don't put out a fire with a flamethrower. He dismisses tax increases, budget cuts, and incremental reform as insufficient. Instead, he insists that only a massive technological shift driven by AI and autonomous robotics can produce enough economic output to pull the country back from the brink. In his view, without machine-driven productivity, the United States will face bankruptcy and collapse. He described the debt trajectory as unsustainable and openly suggested that the nation is on a path to ruin unless a technological revolution takes place. This framing is important. Pay attention. When someone with Musk's influence says there is no other way, he is not merely offering economic analysis. He is articulating a worldview where human labor becomes secondary, national sovereignty becomes dependent on the systems built by private tech conglomerates, and economic survival depends on converting society into a mechanized engine. That worldview aligns closely with the globalist technocratic model we've been exposing for years. This is it. This is what we've been talking about. It's right at our doorstep. I mean, we're hearing about, and I'll be talking about a story later regarding the military and how it's heading in this direction. Obviously, we've heard about all these layoffs. You know, we're in that weird zone now. We've entered that weird zone where companies get so successful that they fire people. What? Well, what? But that's where we are. Once they achieve a degree of success, instead of taking that money and hiring more people and building that way, they're able to change their entire systems. Amazon is a perfect example of this. They will be cutting 75% of the workforce in the coming years, some say months. They don't need us. And people will say, well, that's why you go do this, you go do that, you dig ditches. You know, folks, there is nothing that's safe. Legitimately, seriously. No job is safe. There's some that will take longer to get there, but there's going to come a time in our future, if the current path continues unabated, there will come a time in our future when we will not be able to, sorry about that, we will not be able to fight back. We will not be able to stop it. And again, when I say we, I'm talking about society. When society will have no other choice but to become dependent on these robots, these machines, these artificial intelligence demons, as I think they may end up being. We'll see. Back to the article. The claim that automation is the only escape from fiscal disaster subtly reinforces a narrative that has been growing inside global institutions for decades. The idea that crisis justifies transformation. The debt burden becomes a form of leverage. The message is simple. The system you know is doomed. The only escape is to embrace the new architecture, the new machinery, the new order. Whether intentional or not, the logic echoes the same: problem, reaction, solution. That's the cycle that they've used repeatedly to advance global centralization. Musk's confidence in robots replacing human productivity is not new. His push for Optimus, which we can see a nice picture of right there. There's Optimus. The push for Optimus and other humanoid systems reflects a wider trend inside the elite technological class, one that sees humanity's primary value not in autonomy or purpose, but in output. Under this model, if machines can produce more, faster, and cheaper, then machines should produce, regardless of the social, spiritual, or civilizational costs. A future where physical labor belongs to robots and economic distribution belongs to digital systems is not a future of prosperity. It is a future of dependency. And I think a lot of people will, and rightly so, they'll highlight the truth that as these technologies advance, there's going to be new jobs that open up. You know, you might not be the ditch digger, but somebody's got to monitor the ditches as they're being dug, right? We can't just let the robots go do what their thing. Number one, that's naive to think that that's going to save your job, considering that the idea here is to replace 100 humans with 5 robots. So how many of those 100 humans are going to be needed to watch those 5 robots, right? Number two, there's going to come a point to where there's no need to trust to not trust these automations. We're already seeing it. They did a test, and I don't wish I had the details in front of me. They did a test of truckers, automated trucks, big 18 wheelers, a safety test compared to the best of the best human drivers out there. The robots won. The autonomous trucks were able to navigate situations, and I'm not sure if this was just a straight up simulation or if it was a real world test, and they said that it wasn't a full blown test, but at least based upon this test, which I wish I had in front of me, they determined that autonomous driving trucks were safer and able to avoid disaster more easily than human drivers, even the best human drivers where their intention, it's not like they were distracted. It's not like they put this on random drivers that are out there, maybe can't even speak English. No, they took the best of the best. They said, try to drive as safely as possible. And the robots beat them. Really crazy. Yeah, that's where we are today. When analyzing Musk's comments through the lens of the growing red-green globalist alliance, the picture becomes even clearer. Both Marxist statism and global corporate technocracy share a belief that people must be managed, not empowered. They share a willingness to replace organic communities with centralized systems. They share a desire to dissolve the traditional pillars of Western civilization, especially those rooted in faith, family, and sovereignty. Mass automation fits this agenda because it shifts power upward. It diminishes the role of the individual and makes the society easier to steer. This is where we are today, folks. This is what we're facing. We don't have much time. I'm not going to try to be doom and gloom and say, you got to fix it now, but really, you got to fix it now. And how do you fix it? How do I fix it? It's not by going out and protesting Elon Musk or protesting Optimus or protesting AI. Futile attempts. It's not about going beyond protests and doing anything bad or negative or illegal. It is about self-sufficiency. It is about putting yourself in a position to where you are able to, at the very least, avoid it, to be less beholden to it, or to not be beholden to it at all. I've said in the past, I've actually said, if you're into bunkers, if you're into homesteads, if you're into self-reliance, if you have the resources, you should go do it, but that's everybody has a different take on it. Everyone has different resources and abilities to do such things. I'm changing my tune a little bit. I am now going to strongly suggest that now is the time to do something, to assess your situation and determine what is it going to take for you to be less dependent, less beholden on Western society. And that can be at the community level, but I don't think it can get much bigger than that. It really does start with the individual and the family, making sure that you and yours are taken care of in the event that things really do start to rapidly deteriorate towards this robotic dystopia. I think we're there. Okay, I mean, I don't want to be right in the middle of it when we're trying to, because that's going to make it harder. If it's me, and I'm not going to judge if you just don't believe me, but to me, it does make perfect sense to be able to, if things go really south, that you can take your family away, that you can, or maybe you do that already, not before, not while after it goes south, do it beforehand. If you're stuck in your community, if you, for whatever reason, you're not capable because of resources or abilities or whatever, if you are stuck where you are, then do whatever you can to start building a community support around you. Be a leader or find a leader. I know that not everybody out there is going to be like, okay, this week's preparing for the global sleek balls apocalypse. We're going to, not everybody's going to be able to organize that, but try to find somebody who can. And some of you might disagree. Hopefully not very many of you, but we need to make certain that we are turning everything centered around the Bible. So, shouldn't have taken the risk of a future catastrophe to make that happen. This should have been our calling all along, and maybe for many of you it has been. Good. Praise God for you. But for many of us, this is the wake-up call, okay? If you need to be, I shouldn't say if, you need to be reading your Bible and in prayer and on your knees and spreading the Word of God as much as possible every day. It's a daily activity. And people will say that those are contradictory things. We can discuss that. We can debate it. Should you be, prepping is anti-biblical. I disagree, but I'm not completely 100% sure about that aspect. I could be wrong. Who knows? Good moment to mention that one of the easiest ways to be able to take care of yourself, to be prepared, is to have your own food supply stored up. Now, for a lot of people, if you've got the money, there's an easy button. You just go buy food. Go buy freeze-dried food. You got a place where you can stock up on a bunch of it. You get the food buckets. That's great. But for many of us, it's better to store our own, and you can do that by going to patriot.tv/harvest. Harvest has at least as of right now, they have a Black Friday sale that's absolutely amazing. So take advantage of it. Get your home freeze dryer and start storing your own food. Take the leftovers, cook enough for the family, take the leftovers, pop them in the freeze dryer. Okay? And then you can take them, store them away. Many foods are going to be good for up to 25 years. Patriot.tv/harvest. The Pentagon has announced 6 critical areas for research and development for the U.S. military. They announced this yesterday, and it was eye-opening. Okay, these are important types of technologies that this is. Normally I don't get into these releases. Oh, this is what we're going to focus on in the future. It may or may not happen. In this case, I think it's almost definitely going to happen. And it's not because of what they selected, because they selected everything they picked. By the way, is logical. We'll get into those here in a second. It's the strategy behind implementation that really has me. I don't know. On one hand, I'm excited. On the other hand, it's a little concerning. You'll see. You'll understand here in a second. Article we posted over at patriot.tv. This comes to us through the Epoch Times, written by Arjun Singh. Pentagon announces 6 critical areas for research and development. According to the article, the Pentagon on November 17th announced that it would designate 6 critical technology areas to focus government funding for research and innovation in military technology. The 6 areas are these: applied artificial intelligence, something that obviously AI is already playing a major role in, everything, including the military, but they're looking for ways to make it more integrated. And we will see this in the very near future. We're already seeing bits and pieces of it now, but in the very near future, we will see fully AI automated tanks and boats and planes and drones and everything else. It's coming. And we are, at some point, again, in the near future, we are going to see Terminator-style robots. I know this sounds crazy, we're decades away. No, we're not. We're not decades away. Biomanufacturing, that part, a little scary. There's no details about it. Are they talking about developing biological weapons? I would say, yeah. Whether they admit it or not, that's definitely something to do with it. Contested logistics technologies. I'm going to have to look that one up because I actually don't know what that is. I'll admit it. Number 4, quantum and battlefield information dominance. Now, for those who aren't fully familiar with quantum computing, this is something that, number 1, it's a burgeoning technology that some say has been available and fully developed for a long time. Quantum computing is exponentially more powerful than the fastest computers that we know of as civilians. Quantum computers put those to shame. It's not even close. It's currently being developed by companies like Google, Microsoft. They're really pushing hard, and they're running into roadblocks with the qubits. I'm not going to get into the weeds about it, but some would argue that DARPA and others have already had their hands on quantum computing, and this is a way to, in their perspective, be able to utilize it. Now, I've always said, once you combine quantum computing with AI, it's game over for us. But what they're talking about here, quantum and battlefield information dominance, this is about utilizing quantum computers to basically figure out from a warfare logistics perspective, where do we go? How do we formulate a plan that's going to be minimal casualties for us, maximum casualties for them, stuff like that. That's a very simplistic way of putting it, to be clear, but that's the concept. That's the idea. These computers can and will be able to figure out how to how to war better than we do. So that's coming. Number 5, scaled directed energy, lasers. This, and it's funny because I grew up with Star Wars style lasers or Star Trek style phasers. These ones are very different. They're much broader. They're not so glowing, but they are pretty darn effective. Some would argue that we've already seen that in Maui, but whatever. That's conspiracy theory stuff. We're not going to be talking about any of that today, by golly. But yeah, scale-directed energy weapons, this is something not just for offense, but also for defense. Being able to more easily shoot down missiles, especially if we're talking about hypersonic missiles. Speaking of which, that's number 6, scaled hypersonics. We're behind. China's ahead of us, at least allegedly. I don't know if that's necessarily true or if that's intentional disinformation to make them, I don't know, complacent, feel good about themselves or whatever. But that has been, experts have said that we are behind when it comes to scaled hypersonics. The Pentagon only indicated the department's focus on these areas and did not announce any funding commitments. Crazy. And this is according to Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering Emil Michael, says, our adversaries are moving fast, but we will move faster. The warfighter is not asking for results tomorrow. They need them today. Continued, said these 6 critical technology areas are not just priorities, they are imperatives. The American warfighter will wield the most advanced technology to maximize lethality. This is how the department wins wars. According to Pete Hegseth, our nation's military has always been the tip of the spear. Undersecretary Emil Michael's 6 critical technology areas will ensure that our warriors never enter a fair fight and have the best systems in their hands for maximum lethality. The department is committed to remaining the most deadly fighting force on planet Earth. Good. A memorandum regarding the new CTAs obtained by the Epoch Times indicates that these areas were chosen based on various factors such as the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, the development of hypersonic missiles by communist China, and the race to artificial intelligence. And as the why, look, we can get into the whys, we can even get into the whats. Those are important. But how they're going to implement it, this is where we're starting to see a change. And I would say that this is a humongous change. It's a paradigm shift. I'll explain. Under the Trump administration, the Pentagon has sought to increase government involvement in military research and development, particularly through partnerships with small startup companies, developing new technology to sell to the U.S. government, rather than merely the large defense contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, and General Dynamics. Some new companies closely affiliated with the department are, these names are important, Palantir, that's Alex Karp, that's Peter Thiel, that's the I would say the AI information wing of the deep state. They're getting very good at identifying people from a distance, being able to track people in bulk. We don't know exactly what they're able to do, but this is a company that has risen very, very fast, very quickly. And their tentacles are stretching everywhere. And yes, this is a company that, we say, oh, that's an Alex Karp company, it's a Peter Thiel company. It's a DARPA company. Okay? Their funding was started by the CIA. And now they're talking about the military component, not just the surveillance aspect of things. This is a very dangerous company. And, we can get into the I don't know, the integrity component, but I don't want to because we're talking about the military at this point. This is something where, is this the type of company that we want on our military side? Absolutely. Is it the type of company that we should trust? No, it's going to be used against us, especially what they're doing with AI and surveillance. But at least from a military perspective, from this perspective, it makes sense. Anduril, that's the company, that's Palmer Luckey's company. They've been growing rapidly. And see, and the other one is SpaceX, of course, with Elon Musk. And there are others. But I want you to notice something with this. For decades, we have relied on the big defense contractors, the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, right? These are the companies that have really guided, not just supplied, but guided our military direction. They very similar to, we've all heard the stories about how, the drug companies, they have their people, and their people end up in the FDA, and then people in the FDA end up back at the other drug companies. And same thing happens in defense. Okay. You've got generals that work with people at Lockheed Martin, and then after the generals retire, they end up at Lockheed Martin. Right. So when that's been the dynamic for decades. Once you start introducing these nimble companies like Palantir, like Anduril, like SpaceX, these companies are small, but they're not small, not at all. And we now, what's different is not just the mentality of the Trump administration, and Pete Hegseth, that's great. But what else is different is the ability to ramp up production quickly. That's what really separated Boeing and the others. General Dynamics, they were able to produce more quickly. They could go from prototype to production in a matter of years or decades. We're at a different scale now. Now we can ramp up factories. We can get things ready to be built, components already rolling off the assembly lines because of automation, because of the availability through the supply chain, through the advanced supply chain that they're putting together. Things are very different. And these smaller, nimble companies are able to move much more quickly than a Boeing. And they have to, because our enemies, Russia, China, others, they are moving rapidly as well. And so we can no longer be beholden to whatever Boeing can get out the door in their decades. We have to be faster, and that's why they're looking to these companies. And again, look, we can debate all day about is Palantir evil, right? I think they are. I think they're a deep state tool. I think they're going to be one of the tools towards our demise. But from a purely military perspective, this all makes sense. This is the paradigm shift that's more important than just what they're trying to build or how they're trying to build it. This is the shift in where we're investing our military dollars, our taxpayer dollars for the military, into a way that's more, I don't know, modern. I mean, these companies are the companies of the future. Boeing is not going to be here in 50 years. I can tell you that, not at least in its current form. Palantir might, if we're here in 50 years, that is. Which, that in itself is a question. Of note, this is the part that's again, this isn't anything new, but it still kind of bugs me. Most notably, the chief executive officers of several of these companies, i.e. the chief technology officer of Palantir, Shyam Sankar, the chief technology officer of Meta, Andrew Bosworth, the head of production at OpenAI, Kevin Weil, and Thinking Machines lab advisor Bob McGrew have been commissioned into the U.S. Army Reserves as lieutenant colonels, assigned to the Executive Innovation Corps, which was intended to bring private sector know-how into the uniform. That's a pretty big move. It's not new. Okay, this has been happening for a very long time. Civilians getting the equivalent ranks to be able to basically so they know who reports to them and who do they report to. Right. That's the only way that you can truly operate within the military at this high of a level. But did you hear those names? OpenAI? Really? Meta? Lieutenant Colonel from Meta? Give me a break. Good, bad, again, it is what it is. A lieutenant colonel or equivalent in the U.S. military generally has at least 15 years of service in uniform. And obviously, most of these guys, perhaps none of them, actually do have that kind of experience. And again, I'm not going to tout the positives or negatives here. If we look at it as far as the conspiracies about Palantir evil, military, whatever, military industrial complex doing this, that, or the other. If we just look at it purely from the black and white, our military versus the rest of the world, everything that I just told you is a positive. And so let's just leave it at that. Again, we can debate the conspiracies, the aspects of the military industrial complex that we don't like, the concepts that perhaps our military could ever be turned against us. Those are discussions for a different day. But for now, the takeaway is that our military, from a strategic perspective, just saying, it's heading in the right direction. Pretty happy so far. Pete Hegseth. The insurance you need to protect your American dream. That's the tagline for my great friends over at America First Healthcare. You can find out more for yourself. You can reach them by going to patriot.tv/health, patriot.tv/health. Check them out, see what they offer, whether it's for health, for life, for business insurance. They do a fantastic job. But that's just me saying it. I would strongly encourage you to reach out to them through that link, talk to them, and see what they can do for you. Because look, we can say, oh great, it's awesome, they're America First company and blah 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 blah, they have their shared values and all that. That's great, right? It really is. But is it better? I mean, we're not going to be getting worse coverage just because we can they might give us worse coverage, but by golly, they promote America. That's that's just not going to happen. We are practical people, my audience here at Patriot TV. But with that said, they claim, and I would encourage you to research it, but they claim that they actually have better coverage than what you get through the government-controlled healthcare systems or even many of the private healthcare offerings out there. And more importantly, perhaps for some of you, they offer better rates with, according to their website, with thousands of insurance plans to choose from. It can feel overwhelming to find the right plan at the right price. At America First Healthcare, we take a holistic approach to make sure we find the best coverage for your exact needs. We get you better rates by helping you choose the right type and amount of coverage. Then we shop around for the best results. They can save you up to 20% on the coverage. Who couldn't use? I know we're most of us, the vast majority of us, are paying. I mean, compared to what we used to pay, my goodness, we're paying a lot. 20% right off the top. That would be a huge benefit. So reach out to my good friends over at America First Healthcare. Go to patriot.tv/health. Patriot.tv/health. There are some really exciting things happening at Patriot.tv. Patriot TV Rumble channel last month had our first 2 million view month. Prior to my joining the team as president of Patriot TV back in June of this year, technically May, our best month had been 600,000 views, and we are now over 2 million for the month of October, and November is already well on pace to hit, I think, 2.1, 2.2, so we should have our best month again this month. With that said, we need as much help as we can get, and by help, I'm not going to ask you for money, don't worry. I would say that spreading the word, getting the word out there. This is a network that we are very proud of. My show has not been appearing on the network because I haven't been doing much of a show. And that's obviously changing. You're watching this show today. This is the first of hopefully many. We're going to be doing this every day, talking about perhaps taking the show to a 2-hour show again. For a while, I was doing it for 2 hours with our Patriot TV premieres, but that ended a month and a half ago. And when it ended, I basically took a little bit of a break from doing a show. Now I'm back, and we are going to, at the very least, do these hour-long shows every day. And again, strongly considering going to a 2-hour show. We are at a crossroads as American citizens. We're at a crossroads as far as America as a nation goes. And what we do going forward, how we handle the challenges that we're being faced with on an ongoing basis. This is beyond important. This is imperative. I am a Bible-believing Christian. I do think that we are in the end times. And so I'm going to be doubling and tripling down my own personal efforts to try to expose the risks that we face, to help to bring people to the Bible, into the light, to help make America great again. I know it's turned into a cliche of sorts over the last 8.5 years, but it's real, and we do need to do what we can. This is the only country that we've got. There is no plan B. There is no going anywhere else to safety. We have to make sure that we make our last stand here in the United States of America. It's something that I hold dear. I wasn't born here, but I came here when I was very, very young. My mother met my dad, who was in the U.S. Air Force. he brought us over, and here we are. So I don't want to go anywhere else. Hopefully you don't either. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, you all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.